Ladies and gentlemen, change is never automatic. Life will never wake up one morning and decide to transform itself for you. There will never be a day when the wind shifts by accident, the doors swing open on their own, and destiny strolls in uninvited. No, life does not fix itself. You must force the change you need. You must become the authorized agent of your own transformation. You must rise with authority and take command over your circumstances. Because if you don't, you will remain a victim of what you were never meant to endure. There is a lie that many have believed. That time heals, that time changes, that time will make things better. But time only passes. It does not fix, it does not restore. It does not repair. Only intentional action, powered by vision and discipline, brings transformation. You cannot sit in a mess and hope that by sitting long enough, the mess will turn into order. You cannot sleep in dysfunction and hope that dreams alone will rearrange your destiny. Change must be enforced. You must interrupt the pattern. You must disturb the norm. You must provoke the shift. Change begins with discontent. You must become so uncomfortable with where you are that staying the same becomes more painful than the risk of stepping out. You must come to the point where you say, enough is enough, not tomorrow. Now, because nothing changes until you get sick and tired of being stuck. Nothing moves until your spirit rebels against stagnation. That's where real growth begins. Not in ease, but in divine discomfort. The greatest blessings are often born out of frustration. The greatest deliverance comes when you decide, this can't be my life anymore. You cannot wait for people to give you permission to change. You cannot wait for them to understand your hunger, your vision, your calling. Some people have adjusted to your weakness. They are comfortable with your lack. They have accepted the version of you that is silent, small, struggling, and always available for their convenience. But when you decide to shift, to break patterns, to rise, you will threaten their comfort. Let them be threatened. Let them talk. Let them walk away. You are not shifting for their approval. You are shifting because your purpose demands a new version of you. Life rewards the bold. The kingdom responds to movement. Doors open when you knock. Paths emerge when you walk. Opportunities recognize confidence. If you sit in fear, you forfeit what God placed in you. If you stay passive, you become a spectator in a story you were supposed to lead. Heaven has already invested authority in you. The question is, will you activate it? Will you walk in the power already deposited in your spirit? Will you command the change your future requires? There's a reason the word says faith without works is dead. Because belief without movement is delusion. It is not enough to wish, not enough to want, not enough to pray without aligning your feet to walk in the direction of what you claim to desire. You've got to act. You've got to build. You've got to confront. You've got to tear down old systems in your life and erect new disciplines. You've got to delete numbers, change your circle, shift your habits, restructure your time, and guard your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. The future you want will not visit a passive version of you. Your next level will not descend upon a casual mindset. Greatness is not a gift for the lazy. It is the inheritance of those who refuse to settle. So, shake yourself, wake up your potential. Get your voice back, your discipline back, your clarity back. Stop explaining your delay. Stop rationalizing your fear. Stop rehearsing your pain. There is more in you than what you've allowed. You've survived what was designed to destroy you. You've endured storms that could have buried you. And now you're still breathing because you were born to bring change. You were not created to be at the mercy of life. You were born to master it. You were born to rule, to subdue, to multiply, and to have dominion. So when you wake up in the morning, wake up like someone who knows the world is waiting on you. Don't negotiate with mediocrity. Don't apologize for your fire. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. Step into the authority you've been given and declare to your situation, you will no longer define me. I will define you. Change is not something you survive. It's something you initiate. It's not something you endure. It's something you command. And if you dare to do it, if you dare to be radical, if you dare to believe that your life can reflect the glory of your design, then nothing can stop you. Because heaven backs those who move with intention. The earth responds to those who walk in purpose. And your life, yes, your life will become the evidence that change is possible when you force it with faith, courage, and divine boldness. Life will not change without your intentional action. This truth must be burned into your spirit if you are ever going to break out of cycles, patterns, and excuses that have become comfortable prisons. You see, many people are waiting on a miracle while sitting in mediocrity. They are hoping for a breakthrough while refusing to break old habits. They pray for elevation but never challenge their own limitations. The hard truth is this: your life will never fix itself. It will never, on its own, improve, evolve, or transform. God has already placed everything you need inside of you, but He will never override your will. The garden will not grow unless the gardener plants, waters, and cultivates the soil. Destiny requires discipline. Potential requires pursuit. You must rise up, take authority over your own life, and command it to shift into the shape God designed. There is a danger in waiting. There is a deception in delay. People often say, "I'm just waiting on God," when in truth, God has already moved. He already gave you the vision. He already stirred your spirit. He already placed the dream in your heart. But instead of stepping out, you sat down. Instead of taking the first step, you looked around for permission. You waited for validation. You searched for a sign when the real sign was the dissatisfaction in your spirit. That restlessness, that discomfort, that divine urge, that was God's voice calling you forward. But because you didn't act on it, life stayed the same. And here's the thing: when you don't respond to divine moments, they pass. Not because God is cruel, but because purpose doesn't wait for indecision. You must respond when the Spirit calls. Delay is disobedience in slow motion. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need another confirmation. You need to act. Some people are experts in complaining about the problems they refuse to confront. They've built routines around survival, not success. They've mastered how to endure what they were supposed to change. And over time, the dysfunction becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes comfortable. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's right. Just because you've lived a certain way for years doesn't mean it's your destiny. The enemy of your future is your comfort with the present. If you don't disrupt it intentionally, it will quietly destroy your potential. You must become aggressive about your transformation. You must say to yourself, "I will not remain like this. I will not continue to repeat cycles. I will not pass down pain. I will be the interruption. I will force a new order into my life." Nothing in Scripture supports the idea that success happens automatically. Every great figure in the Bible had to move. Abraham had to leave his father's house. Joseph had to rise up in prison. David had to fight giants. Esther had to speak up in a palace. Ruth had to glean in a foreign field. Jesus himself had to walk toward the cross. Movement is the evidence of decision. It is not enough to know the promise. You must pursue it. And pursuit requires intention. It requires that you do things you've never done. It requires that you wake up earlier, work harder, pray longer, plan better, study deeper, and think higher. Your future is not waiting on God. It's waiting on you to get serious. If your life is in chaos, it's not because the enemy is stronger than God. It's because you've allowed chaos to rule where order was meant to reign. Order is a spiritual principle. Heaven is governed by it, and your life must reflect the same. Intentional action brings divine order. You cannot expect peace while tolerating confusion. You cannot expect abundance while maintaining the habits of poverty. You cannot expect growth while refusing to stretch. Intentionality means you become ruthless with your time, selective with your circle, and disciplined in your decisions. You start to say no to what drains you and yes to what grows you. You stop reacting and start responding with vision. Too many people waste energy on what they cannot control while neglecting what they can. You can't control the past, but you can decide what it means to you now. You can't control other people, but you can control how much access they have to your life. You can't control every outcome, but you can control your obedience. And obedience always opens doors. When you begin to take intentional action, when you stop rehearsing pain and start building purpose, heaven backs you. Favor finds movement. Resources align with responsibility. Breakthroughs meet boldness. But until you act, your life will reflect your indecision. You must begin to understand the spiritual authority God has placed in you. He created you in His image. That means you are not a passive being. You are a creative force. You have the power to speak, to design, to shape, to plant, to uproot, to command. But that power remains dormant until you use it. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. But your tongue won't change anything until your mind is renewed and your hands start building. Intentional action is more than movement. It's aligned movement. It means you no longer live by accident. You begin to live by assignment. You become aware that your time is limited and your impact is necessary. This world is waiting for people who refuse to be average. People who understand that the kingdom of God does not advance through passive living. The Bible says the kingdom suffers violence and the violent take it by force. That means progress is seized, not received. You don't wait for life to give it. You demand it through disciplined effort and relentless faith. You get up every day and work as if heaven is counting on you, because it is. Your generation needs what you carry. Your future is pregnant with solutions. Your voice, your gift, your calling, they are all waiting on you to stop being casual and start being intentional. There is no secret to success in the kingdom. It is simple but costly obedience, discipline, vision, and action. These are not optional, they are foundational. And until you commit to them fully, life will keep you on a treadmill of almost maybes and someday. But the moment you decide that enough is enough, when you say, I will no longer watch life happen while I sit on the sidelines, you step into divine alignment, you become a partner with heaven. You begin to operate not from fear but from authority, not from confusion but from clarity. And suddenly the very ground beneath your feet begins to respond. Doors start to open. People begin to notice. Things start to shift, not because life changed on its own, but because you forced it to by the power of intentional, God-led action. Discomfort is the catalyst for transformation. Nothing in life truly changes until a person becomes uncomfortable enough to refuse staying the same. As long as you can tolerate it, you will live with it. As long as you can survive it, you won't change it. This is why God often uses frustration, agitation, and restlessness as tools to awaken you to your potential. Because comfort can deceive you. It can make you believe that average is acceptable, that delay is wisdom, and that being stuck is somehow spiritual. But when divine discomfort enters your life, it becomes a holy alarm clock ringing in your soul. It disrupts your normal, interrupts your patterns, and demands that you reevaluate everything you've been settling for. Some people call it a midlife crisis. Others call it burnout, depression, or dissatisfaction. But in the spirit realm, it is often divine discontent. It's heaven's way of telling you, you were made for more than this. And until you respond to that discomfort, you will remain in cycles that God never ordained. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your announcement. It is the signal that what used to fit no longer does. It is the sound of growth knocking on the door of your comfort zone, asking to be let in. And you have a choice. You can silence the alarm and go back to sleep in your dysfunction, or you can wake up and change everything. You see, comfort is a trap. It is the enemy of destiny. It convinces you that good enough is good enough. It seduces you into routines that numb your ambition and mute your purpose. But discomfort shakes you. It makes you question the life you've built. It makes you wonder why you keep reliving the same year over and over again, calling it a life. When God wants to elevate you, He first agitates you. He disturbs your peace, not to harm you, but to heal you. Because the peace you've had is not the peace He promised. His peace comes through alignment, not avoidance. It comes through obedience, not apathy. And that divine discomfort you feel, that's heaven's invitation to grow. You cannot change until you become dissatisfied, and not just casually uncomfortable. You must become so deeply disturbed by your current state that change becomes a non-negotiable. That's when the breakthrough comes. Not when you complain, not when you blame others, but when you look in the mirror and say, I will not live like this anymore. That's when you draw the line. That's when you confront the patterns, the habits, the lies, the fears, and the excuses that have kept you bound. Because real growth demands confrontation. You can't conquer what you're not willing to face. You can't change what you're still justifying. God will let you get uncomfortable for a reason. Think about the prodigal son. He didn't return to his father until he got tired of eating with pigs. He didn't come to himself until life humbled him. Discomfort brought him to revelation. Some of the greatest shifts in your life will not come through comfort, but through crisis. Because crisis reveals what comfort conceals. It shows you who you really are. It exposes what you truly believe. And it forces you to make decisions you've been avoiding. Discomfort is not punishment. It's preparation. It's the chisel in the hand of the Creator, shaping you into what He already sees. This is why you cannot curse the season you're in. Even if it's painful, the pressure is not to break you, it's to build you. The agitation is not to destroy you, it's to develop you. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified by fire. And you too are being refined by the very discomfort you want to escape. God is more concerned with your development than your convenience. He will allow you to sit in uncomfortable places so you'll never confuse stagnation with safety. He will allow people to walk away, doors to close, resources to dry up, not because He's abandoning you, but because He's positioning you. He's provoking the next version of you to emerge. The life you desire is on the other side of discomfort. The growth you need, the clarity you seek, the strength you want, it doesn't live in comfort. It lives in the stretching, in the breaking, in the pressing. You have to be willing to let go of what feels safe to reach for what is sacred. You have to be bold enough to leave familiar bondage for unfamiliar freedom. You have to be willing to weep your way through transformation, knowing that the pain has a purpose. Discomfort may wound you temporarily, but it heals you eternally. It teaches you what comfort never could. It reveals capacity you didn't know you had. It awakens courage that was dormant. It ignites hunger that had been numbed by routine. You can't pray away discomfort that God sent to grow you. You can't bind what heaven allowed for your elevation. The thorn in Paul's flesh was not removed, but it kept him dependent on grace. Your struggle might not be removed immediately because it's doing something in you that ease never could. It's cultivating humility, maturity, discernment, and strength. And when you finally embrace that discomfort instead of running from it, you will begin to see it as a gift. A painful gift, yes, but a necessary one. There is a divine urgency in discomfort. It tells you that time is passing and purpose is waiting. It wakes you up from the sleep of procrastination and whispers, you were born for more than this. It reminds you that life is not a rehearsal, that you don't have forever, that greatness requires movement, that obedience must be immediate, that tomorrow is promised to no one. So if you're uncomfortable right now, good. That means you're alive. That means your spirit still recognizes the tension between where you are and where you're supposed to be. That means something inside you still remembers who you were called to become. God does not waste pain. He does not allow discomfort without destiny. There is purpose in every tear, every sleepless night, every unanswered question. Your discomfort is the womb of your next season. It's the soil where your future is planted. And if you dare to sit with it, to listen to it, to learn from it, and to move because of it, you will find that it wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you. Discomfort is a divine invitation to rise, to evolve, to create, to become. And when you finally accept that invitation, you no longer wait for change. You become the change. Stop waiting for permission. Activate your own authority. You have been given dominion by God Himself. You have been entrusted with the breath of the Almighty, placed on this earth, not to beg for your place, but to take it. Not to tiptoe through life waiting for others to approve your next move, but to step boldly into your purpose. The tragedy of many lives is not that they lacked potential, but that they waited too long for someone else to say, now you can begin. They waited for applause before they started building. They waited for recognition before they started believing. But destiny does not respond to delay. Purpose does not bow to permission. You are already called. You are already chosen. Now move. The world teaches you to wait for validation, to chase after titles, to seek approval before you believe in yourself. But in the kingdom of God, identity precedes evidence. You are not what people say you are. You are who God says you are, and that is final. And if He said you are a leader, then lead. If He said you are a builder, then build. If He said you are healed, then walk like it. You don't need an earthly license to do what heaven has already authorized. Your authority does not come from men. It comes from the mandate within you. When the Creator spoke over your life, He deposited an assignment inside of you, and it was never designed to wait for man's endorsement. Many people are imprisoned by fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of criticism. They shrink themselves, second-guess themselves, and stay stuck because someone once told them they weren't enough. But those voices do not have power unless you give it to them. You cannot surrender your authority to opinions. You cannot negotiate your calling with people who are intimidated by your light. You cannot be delayed by those who benefit from your silence. There comes a moment where you must rise, not with arrogance, but with divine confidence, and say, I don't need you to agree with me. I know who I am, I know what I carry, and I will not be silent any longer. But when Jesus walked into a room, He didn't ask for permission. He didn't wait for the religious elite to approve His miracles. He moved with authority. He spoke with clarity. He disrupted systems, challenged traditions, and offended people who were addicted to control. He knew who sent Him. He knew the Spirit that rested upon Him. And because of that, He walked into dark places and brought light, not waiting for applause. The same Spirit that raised Him from the dead now lives in you. That same boldness, that same authority, that same clarity, it is in your DNA. So why are you still asking for permission to do what you were born to do? You do not need a title to lead. You don't need a platform to speak. You don't need a perfect background to have a powerful future. You need obedience. You need alignment. You need the courage to move forward without consensus. Waiting for permission is a form of procrastination wrapped in fear. It's a delay tactic of the enemy designed to keep you insecure, dependent, and ineffective. And if you're not careful, you will spend years explaining your silence instead of living your calling. When you understand your authority, you stop trying to fit in. You stop diluting your voice. You stop editing your identity to be palatable for people who were never meant to walk with you. Some people are allergic to your authenticity. Let them go. Some are intimidated by your clarity. Bless them and move on. You weren't called to be liked. You were called to be effective. And effectiveness starts when you stop needing a vote to do what God already spoke. Heaven responds to faith, not hesitation. Angels don't move when you cower. They move when you declare. Creation doesn't align with your fear. It aligns with your faith-filled words. So speak. Mild. Begin. You don't need all the answers. You just need to activate the authority within you. That means you take the first step without knowing what the 10th step looks like. That means you launch the idea, write the vision, speak the word, and trust that provision will meet movement. Too many people are sitting on blueprints for businesses, ministries, books, and solutions because they're waiting for someone to discover them. But you don't need to be discovered. You need to discover your own fire. And once you do, the world won't be able to ignore you. You are not waiting on favor. Favor is waiting on you to show up. You are not waiting on opportunity. Opportunity is waiting on your obedience. Every delay that fear has created in your life can be reversed by a moment of bold action. You are one decision away from shifting the atmosphere of your entire life. But you have to stop playing small. You have to stop shrinking your vision to fit within the comfort zones of those around you. You have to stop silencing your voice because others aren't ready for your volume. There is a roar in you. There is a fire. There is a sound that breaks generational curses. There is a word that unlocks destinies. But it won't come forth while you wait in silence. You must speak. You must act. Authority is not about shouting louder. It's about knowing deeper. When you know who you are and whose you are, you don't need to convince anyone. Your presence will carry weight. Your decisions will have impact. Your words will produce fruit. You were never meant to beg for influence. You were meant to walk in inheritance. You are not a spiritual orphan hoping someone notices your gift. You are a royal heir enforcing the will of your Father on earth as it is in heaven. That is the weight you carry. That is the power you possess. And that is why you can no longer wait for permission. The truth is, the world will never fully be ready for what you carry. The systems around you were not designed to recognize your assignment. The people around you may not understand your process, but understanding is not a requirement for obedience. You move because you are led, not because you are applauded. You build because you are sent, not because you are celebrated. You rise because it's time, not because they said so. And once you embrace that truth, once you internalize that revelation, you become unstoppable. Because now you are no longer a prisoner of perception. You are a steward of purpose. And you will not stop until what God put in you becomes visible in the earth. Faith must be matched with works. Believing alone is not enough. Hoping alone is not enough. Declaring without doing is empty noise. There is a principle embedded in the divine order of creation that faith only produces when it is coupled with corresponding action. Too many people sit with vision, speak with passion, dream with fire, and yet never see results because they refuse to act. They think that faith is simply believing that something will happen, but real faith is moving as if it already has. Real faith picks up the hammer and starts building the ark before a single drop of rain falls from the sky. Real faith plants the seed even when the ground looks dry and the skies are silent. Real faith doesn't wait for proof. It creates it through obedience. There is a generation full of vision but starving for discipline. Many shout about what they believe, yet walk daily in contradiction to it. They talk about greatness but never commit to the habits that make it possible. They pray for promotion but never study the skills that sustain it. They ask for increase but mishandle what they already have. They declare abundance while maintaining poverty routines. Faith is not magic, it is alignment. It is putting your hands to the plow. It is setting the alarm clock. It is turning off the distractions. It is having a plan and working that plan with diligence. Faith is waking up and showing up, not just speaking up. It is taking your belief and giving it a body called effort. Scripture is clear, faith without works is dead. It's lifeless, powerless. It may sound good in prayer circles, but it produces nothing in real life. A man can sit at a table and pray for food, but unless he cooks or someone brings him a meal, he'll go hungry. A woman can pray for a business, but if she never writes the vision, creates the structure, and learns the industry, she'll always be a dreamer without delivery. Prayer is essential, yes. Declaration is powerful, absolutely. But if it is not followed by motion, structure, planning, and consistency, then it is an echo with no fruit. You were not created to simply believe. You were created to become. And becoming requires motion. Look at every miracle in the Bible, and you'll see the same pattern. Divine power responds to human obedience. The Red Sea didn't part until Moses stretched out his staff. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until the people marched. The man with the withered hand was not healed until he stretched it forth. The blind man wasn't restored until he went and washed. The woman with the issue of blood didn't get her healing until she reached out and touched. Faith moves. It acts. It refuses to stay still. It is the divine currency that heaven responds to, but only when it is expressed through action. There are people who have been waiting for years for a door to open, not realizing that the door was voice activated and movement activated all along. They wait for favor while ignoring their responsibilities. They ask for change while continuing the same habits. They declare transformation while feeding their distractions. But what you tolerate, you cannot transform. And what you refuse to confront, you give permission to continue. Faith says, I see what is, but I believe in what can be. And then it takes what can be and builds it step by step, day by day, even when no one claps, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it feels slow. Because real faith is not emotional, it is committed. The difference between wishing and faith is simple. Wishing is passive. Faith is participatory. Wishing looks out the window. Faith builds with what's in your hand. Wishing complains about lack. Faith multiplies the little. Wishing dreams. Faith does. Wishing waits for the right time. Faith declares, now is the time. If only I had more. Faith says, what I have is enough. You don't need more time, more resources, or more connections to start walking by faith. You need more clarity, more courage, and more discipline. Because God never calls you to something without equipping you for it. But the equipping is often hidden inside the doing. As you move, the resources come. As you step, the path unfolds. People who walk by faith are not reckless. They are relentless. They don't move without prayer, but once they receive instruction, they don't delay. They don't always feel qualified, but they know they're called. And the call is enough to begin. They understand that waiting for perfect conditions is a form of disobedience. The perfect moment may never come, but your decision to act makes the moment perfect. Faith is about obeying when you don't have all the details, because you trust the one who does. It's about trusting the mapmaker, not just the map. God honors faith that builds, faith that sweats, faith that stumbles forward. You may not always get it right. You may fail, fall, and make mistakes. But faith gets back up. It adjusts, it learns, it improves. Faith doesn't demand instant results. It commits to consistent movement. You must come to the place where you are so convinced of the vision that you are willing to work for it with joy, with energy, and with perseverance. You don't stop when it gets hard. You don't quit when it gets slow. You don't retreat when you get tired. You rest, but you don't stop. Because faith says, if I keep showing up, something will break. Something will shift. Something will happen. Some people talk about faith as if it's a mystical force disconnected from reality. But faith is very practical. It's the fuel that wakes you up early and keeps you focused. It's the voice that tells you to forgive when bitterness wants to speak. It's the strength to give even when it feels like you're running low. It's the discipline to budget, to exercise, to learn, to develop, to stretch, because you believe you're going somewhere greater. That's what faith does. It prepares you for what you have not seen yet. It gets you ready for doors that haven't opened. It keeps your hands moving so when the opportunity shows up, you're not scrambling, you're ready. Faith is not about proving yourself to people. It's about proving yourself obedient to God. It's not about showing off. It's about showing up every day with excellence, with intention, with responsibility, because you know your faith is not in vain. You know your obedience is not ignored. Heaven is watching. Seeds are growing underground. Breakthrough is building behind the scenes. But none of that manifests without your participation. God will do what only He can do, but He will not do what He expects you to do. He gave you the idea. Now you must structure it. He gave you the promise. Now you must pursue it. He gave you the vision. Now you must move toward it, not in fear, but in faith. And not just faith in your words, but faith in your walk. Faith that works, faith that acts, faith that builds what the world has not yet seen, but what your spirit already knows is coming. Your future requires a new version of you. The life you are dreaming of, the vision God placed in your spirit, the destiny that keeps you up at night. It cannot be fulfilled by the current version of you. Who you are today is not who you will need to be tomorrow. Growth is not just about acquiring things, it's about becoming someone. You don't attract the next level, you grow into it. You evolve mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and behaviorally. What's waiting ahead is not just about opportunity, it's about identity. There is a version of you that is aligned with the future, and until you allow that version to emerge, the doors that were prepared for you will remain locked. God often hides opportunities behind identity upgrades. He will allow you to get frustrated with where you are, not to punish you, but to push you into the becoming process. Because He knows that if He gives you what you're praying for now, without development, it will crush you. If you enter into the next level prematurely, it will expose your immaturity. So instead of blessing you too soon, He stretches you, shapes you, refines you, and makes you face the parts of yourself that can't survive in your future. Not every delay is demonic. Some are developmental. God is not trying to keep things from you. He's trying to build the version of you that can sustain what's coming. The greatest battles you will ever face are not against others. They are against the old version of yourself. The version that is comfortable. The version that is insecure. The version that procrastinates, that doubts, that fears, that avoids. That version is familiar, but it is no longer useful. Your future demands a you that is clear, decisive, disciplined, and unapologetically aligned with purpose. That means you must begin the work of unlearning, of confronting your excuses, of breaking patterns that you've called just who I am for years. You must be willing to tear down the false identity built from pain, rejection, trauma, and culture, and rebuild yourself from the truth of what God said about you. There is no breakthrough without self-confrontation. You cannot transform what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't blame your past, your upbringing, your environment, or your circumstances forever. At some point, you must take ownership and say, I cannot carry this version of me into my next season. It might be your attitude. It might be your laziness. It might be your lack of boundaries. It might be your pride. It might be your need for validation. But whatever it is, it must go. Because destiny is heavy, and you don't have room to carry dead weight from the past. You need to travel light. You need to be lean in spirit, sharp in mind, and clear in focus. What God is preparing for you is too great for casual living. This is not the season to blend in. This is the season to become strategic, to become disciplined, to become intentional, to become responsible for your gift. The next version of you doesn't wake up late, doesn't waste time, doesn't entertain distractions. The next version of you isn't afraid to say no, isn't afraid to be misunderstood, isn't afraid to outgrow people who refuse to grow. The next version of you is focused, unshakable, committed. And until you become that, you'll keep wondering why nothing is shifting. The shift begins with you. You don't get to stay the same and access the future God has designed. God doesn't bless your comfort zone. He blesses your obedience zone. So if He's calling you to change, to grow, to heal, to move, you must obey. That may mean you need to change your circle. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, not just comfort you. People who will speak life, not feed your pity. The next version of you needs alignment, not agreement. Agreement feels good, but alignment produces growth. Sometimes the voices you need in your life will not always say what you want to hear, but they'll say what your future needs to hear. You must begin to see yourself differently. Stop calling yourself unworthy, broken, incapable, or behind. Those are labels the old version of you carried, but they have no place in your future. You are not what happened to you. You are not what you lost. You are not the failure, the betrayal, or the delay. You are becoming. And in the process of becoming, you must speak to yourself according to where you are going, not where you've been. Start affirming the next version of you. Speak in faith. Act in faith. Think in faith. Dress in faith. Show up like someone who belongs in the room, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. Because identity is not about feelings. It's about agreement with God's truth. Every level of your life will require a version of you that is more refined. And every time you step into that new version, something will die. An old mindset, an old behavior, an old relationship. And that death may feel like loss, but it's actually pruning. It's God removing what no longer serves your assignment. Don't grieve what He's cutting off. Celebrate what he's making room for. The you he's forming is bolder, wiser, stronger, and more fruitful. But you must surrender to the process. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like daily habits. Waking up with a plan. Saying no when it's easier to say yes. Doing the hard thing when no one is watching. Growth is not just about elevation, it's about excavation. Digging up the roots of fear, insecurity, bitterness, and pride, and planting seeds of wisdom, humility, courage, and consistency. It's work, silent, unseen, often thankless work. But it's the kind of work that produces lasting fruit. And your future will only bloom to the degree that you invest in this internal transformation. You must stop idolizing your potential and start activating it. Talking about what you could be will never substitute for actually becoming it. The world doesn't need another dreamer. It needs a finisher. The assignment God placed on your life is too urgent to be delayed by the old you. So take inventory. Where are you still tolerating smallness? Where are you hiding your greatness behind excuses? Where are you settling for survival instead of pressing into purpose? Begin to remove the unnecessary. Begin to shape the vessel. The oil is ready, but the vessel must be prepared. What God wants to pour into your life cannot be contained by a casual mindset. The new version of you is already inside of you. It's not coming from the outside. It's being unlocked through intentional development, radical honesty, and unwavering obedience. You've seen glimpses of that version in moments of clarity, moments of courage, moments of power. Now it's time to let that version take over. Let it lead. Let it build. Let it speak. Let it walk into rooms the old you was too afraid to enter. Because once that version of you stands up fully, your future will respond. Doors will open, resources will align, favor will accelerate. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You were born to master life, not be a victim of it. The original design for humanity was dominion. When God created mankind, He did not create servants. He created rulers. He did not hand over life for you to survive it. He handed over authority so you could govern it. That means you were never intended to live at the mercy of circumstances. You were never meant to be tossed back and forth by emotion, by people's opinions, or by environmental conditions. You were created in the image of the Creator to reflect His authority in the earth. But if you don't understand this truth, you will live as if you have no control, no influence, and no power to change your life. Victimhood is a mindset that robs people of their God-given potential. It convinces you that life is happening to you instead of through you. It paralyzes your choices and replaces initiative with excuses. It teaches you to look for someone to blame rather than take ownership for where you are. But the power of God never flows through victimhood. It flows through responsibility. It flows through those who rise up and say, "Yes, I've been through pain, I've faced hardship, I've walked through storms. But I refuse to let that define me. I choose to rule over what was meant to ruin me." The moment you stop identifying as a victim is the moment your life begins to shift. It's not that injustice doesn't happen. It's not that pain is imaginary. It's not that loss isn't real. But the question is not what happened to you. The question is what you're doing with it. You can either build a case for why your life is limited, or you can build a future that overrides the past. God has already given you the blueprint. He has already given you dominion. The real issue is whether you will activate it or not. Most people are waiting for life to hand them freedom. But freedom is enforced, not inherited. It's not given by man. It's taken through awareness, discipline, and alignment with truth. To master life, you must first master your mind. Every defeat begins with a thought. Every breakthrough also begins with a thought. Your life will follow the direction of your dominant mindset. If you think you're powerless, you will act powerless. If you believe nothing can change, you won't even try. But if you believe that change is not only possible, it's inevitable, you will begin to walk differently, speak differently, and make decisions that reflect mastery, not misery. God never said weapons wouldn't be formed against you. He said they wouldn't prosper. That means adversity may arise, but it does not have authority over your destiny. Only you can surrender that authority, and only you can take it back. Mastery is not perfection. It is intentionality. It is taking what you've been given and commanding it into order. It is refusing to be ruled by feelings and choosing instead to be ruled by principles. Mastery doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you don't obey it. It doesn't mean storms don't come. It means you learn how to speak to them. It doesn't mean everything goes according to plan. It means you have the power to pivot, to rebuild, to recalibrate, and to keep moving forward. People who master life don't wait for peace to arrive. They create it. They don't wait for opportunities. They generate them. They don't sit around asking for a better hand. They play the one they've got with faith and wisdom until the table turns in their favor. It is easy to spot a person who lives with dominion. Their spirit is calm even in chaos. Their speech carries weight even when soft. Their presence shifts atmospheres. Not because of external status, but because of internal stability. When you know who you are, you don't need to prove it. You walk in alignment with the kingdom within you. You govern your emotions, your time, your habits, your relationships. You become a steward, not a slave. That's the posture of someone who is no longer asking life to be fair, but commanding life to respond to their alignment with God's order. Victims wait. Victims ask why. Rulers ask how. Victims freeze in crisis. Rulers rise in it. There is royalty in your bloodline. You are not weak. You are not fragile. You are not here by accident. You are not merely surviving. You are here to execute divine authority on earth. That means wherever you walk, something should shift. That means when you speak, truth should rise. That means when you show up, confusion must leave. But none of that is possible if you keep seeing yourself as someone who needs rescuing. You were rescued the moment Jesus declared, "It is finished." Now the rest is up to you. Now you must live from that finished work. Now you must take dominion. Life will test you. Trials will come. Pain will visit. But none of these things have the power to define you unless you surrender to them. Mastery means you choose your response. It means you do not let temporary discomfort shape permanent identity. You feel what you feel, but then you decide. You don't let feelings sit in the driver's seat. You don't let anger, discouragement, or insecurity decide your future. You acknowledge them. Then you realign with your vision. The most dangerous person is one who is fully awake to their authority, fully aware of their identity, and fully surrendered to the will of God, because they cannot be manipulated by circumstance. They cannot be bribed by fear. They cannot be trapped by delay. They know who they are and they know why they're here. When you walk in mastery, you stop competing. You stop comparing. You stop explaining. You stop complaining. You recognize that no one else can take your place because your place was designed for your fingerprints. You stop looking for who to blame and start looking for what to build. You stop seeking attention and start walking in intention. You no longer need everything to be easy because you've developed the strength to endure. And that strength comes from choosing every day to rise, to command your thoughts, to honor your assignment, to steward your moments, to manage your energy, to lead your life. You are not at the mercy of what has happened. You are not stuck in what didn't work. You are not defined by what was taken from you. You are not disqualified because of what you didn't know before. You are the master of the present moment. You are the one heaven is counting on to rise up and set order in your sphere. Your finances will not rule you. You will rule them. Your past will not rule you. You will redeem it. Your environment will not rule you. You will shift it. That is the posture of someone who knows they were never meant to be a victim of life. They were born to master it. And when you finally walk in that posture, when you finally speak from that place, when you finally decide that you will no longer apologize for your authority, everything around you will begin to respond. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Not because circumstances changed, but because you did. So hear me today, not as someone giving you inspiration, but as someone calling forth your responsibility. Your life will never fix itself. It is waiting on you. Heaven is waiting on you. The earth is groaning for the manifestation of sons and daughters who understand that dominion is not a suggestion. It is a mandate. You were not born to sit and wish. You were born to decide and build. You were born to confront, to command, and to construct the life that aligns with God's original idea for you. It is time to stop rehearsing your pain and start activating your purpose. It is time to stop blaming and start becoming. Whatever you tolerate will stay. Whatever you confront will change. Your future is not in the hands of the enemy. Your future is not even in the hands of people. It is in your hands, and those hands were designed to rule. So rise up with clarity, with courage, and with conviction, and force the change you were born to bring. Because if you don't do it, it won't be done. And if you don't rise, nothing around you will.